single night, he hijacked the plane, outsmarted the FBI, and vanished into the sky with $200,000 in cash. For 45 years, the FBI searched, but found nothing. No body, no evidence, no answers. So, who was D.B. Cooper? A criminal or a legend? To truly grasp this story, let's step inside it, through the eyes of an AI character. It was the eve of Thanksgiving, November 24th, 1971. The skies over America were calm. But at the Portland International Airport in Oregon, a man who'd go down in infamy quietly stepped into history. He bought a one-way ticket under the name Dan Cooper. Northwest Orient Airlines, Flight 305, a 30-minute hop from Portland to Seattle. Nothing about him stood out. Mid-40s, wearing a bright cobalt blue two-piece suit, a wide lapel blazer, matching bell-bottom trousers, a white dress shirt, blue necktie, worn brown boots, and a briefcase. He looked more like a businessman than a criminal. Once on board the Boeing 727, he took seat 18C. The flight had 36 passengers and 6 crew members. He ordered a bourbon and soda. Calm, collected, he even lit a cigarette, something still allowed in 1971. But just after the plane took off, he leaned toward a flight attendant, Florence Schaffner, and handed her a note. At first, she assumed it was just another man slipping her his phone number, until Cooper leaned in and said in a low voice, "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." Florence read the note. It stated Cooper had a bomb and demanded $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck standing by in Seattle to refuel the plane for a getaway. The flight crew informed the cockpit. The pilots relayed the information to air traffic control. FBI and airline officials scrambled behind the scenes, but they played along, instructing the pilots to comply, to avoid any risk to the passengers. Cooper showed the bomb, or at least a glimpse. Inside his briefcase, red sticks, wired to a battery. Not enough time to test if it was real. The authorities didn't want to take any chances. The plane circled Seattle for almost 2 hours, while the FBI gathered the ransom and parachutes. Passengers, unaware of the hijacking, were told there was a minor mechanical issue. Finally, at 5:39 p.m., Flight 305 landed at Seattle-Tacoma Airport. The passengers disembarked safely, having no idea they had just been part of an airborne heist. Cooper had stayed in the rear of the aircraft, keeping the flight attendants near him. He exchanged the passengers for the money and parachutes, but he refused to release the crew. They were part of the next phase. He then instructed the pilots to set a course toward Mexico City. Flying at a low altitude of 10,000 feet, and with the rear stairwell lowered, something only possible on that specific model of the Boeing 727, he insisted. The landing gear remained down, and the speed kept to just over 100 knots. Slow and steady. The crew had never seen anything like it. Cooper was prepared. This wasn't a desperate man. This was someone who knew planes, parachutes, wind direction, even how radar might behave at lower altitudes. They took off again. Around 7:40 p.m., it was dark, rainy, and cold. Somewhere over the rugged wilderness of southwestern Washington with no warning, Cooper opened the rear stairwell and jumped, vanishing into the night, mid-flight, with a bag full of money strapped to his body. And just like that, he was gone. The moment D.B. Cooper leapt from that aircraft, he became more than a man. He became a myth, a legend, drifting into the stormy skies of American folklore. The Boeing 727 continued its flight and eventually landed safely in Reno, Nevada. When the crew opened the rear stairwell, it confirmed what they feared. Cooper was gone. All he left behind was a black tie, a clip-on tie pin, and 8 filter-tipped cigarette butts stubbed into the seat's ashtray. The FBI now had a hijacking on its hands and a suspect who had vanished into the night. The search began immediately. Based on flight trajectory, wind direction, and timing, investigators estimated Cooper had jumped over the dense, forested wilderness near the Lewis River in southwestern Washington. It was a place of steep cliffs, icy rivers, and deep, dark woods. Over 800 FBI agents, National Guardsmen, and local police combed the area for weeks. They found nothing. No body, no parachute, no money, no trace. Over the next months and years, the FBI tracked down more than 800 suspects. Some were war veterans, some were criminals, and others were simply men who bragged too much at bars. But none could be definitively tied to the hijacking. The name Dan Cooper was a fake, though interestingly, it matched the name of a fictional comic book hero in Europe, a hero who flew planes and performed daring missions. Coincidence? Or clue? One of the most famous suspects was a man named Richard Floyd McCoy, a former Green Beret who hijacked a plane in 1972 in almost identical fashion. He used a fake name, demanded $500,000, jumped from the rear of a Boeing 727 with a parachute, and escaped. Briefly, he was later caught and killed in a shootout with the FBI. Was he Cooper? The FBI said no. His age and appearance didn't match the witnesses from Flight 305. But theories persisted. Then in 1980, nearly a decade after the skyjacking, a young boy named Brian Ingram made a discovery. Along the Columbia River, near Vancouver, Washington, while digging in the sand on vacation, he uncovered several bundles of decaying $20 bills. When tested, the serial numbers matched the exact bills given to Cooper. $5,800 in total. The money was found 40 miles from the suspected drop zone, partially buried, eroded by time. It reignited the mystery. Had Cooper drowned or buried the money as a decoy? Despite this discovery, no further trace of D.B. Cooper was ever found. The remaining money, $194,200, was never recovered. No credible sightings, no deathbed confessions, no undeniable suspects. In 2016, after 45 years of investigation, the FBI officially closed the case, stating they had exhausted all credible leads. But Cooper never faded from the American imagination. He became a folk hero to some, a man who beat the system, harmed no one, and vanished with the loot. His image lives on in movies, books, even Comic Cons. Towns in Washington still host annual D.B. Cooper Days. And to this day, amateur sleuths scour the forests, study weather data, and decode old letters claiming to be from Cooper himself. Whoever he was, criminal, thoughtful, veteran, genius, or ghost, D.B. Cooper pulled off one of the most daring heists in American history. And unless a parachute turns up in a forgotten attic or someone steps forward with the truth, the mystery of the man who vanished into the clouds will live on. Forever unsolved.